There are a few of the tales in the Arizona desert that could be told, but they may be best for another time. And all of it is subject to revision as it goes on. I don't remember everything exactly as it happened, in the order that it happened. But these recollections and stories are the best that I can recall at the moment that they're being videoed. Leaving Arizona was a little bit of a task. It wasn't the same as the rest of the trip had been to that point. I had learned the trick with the two 2-liter bottles, one in front and one on the back, slung over the shoulder. And that was good for a day and a night. I was walking across 20 or so miles stretch. I could make it with those two 2-liter bottles fairly easily. And I had seen stretches of highway along 40 there in northern Arizona where it was 10, 20 miles to the next water, next facility. They'd have signs. But to take the next big leg of the journey from Arizona into California, I'd have to cross the Mojave Desert. And I believe it's outside of Kingman there, Arizona, western end of Interstate 40, where there's a sign that says next water or facilities 80 miles or 100 miles. I forget exactly how far. And so I felt like that was a little too far for me and my two 2-liters. I wasn't going to make that stretch in one night walking. And with no promise of water on the other side, I couldn't make any relatively safe provision for being able to make it across there alone. And as foolish or brave or chancy as my whole trip had been to that point, that was a little more chance than I wanted to take, or at least that I knowingly would want to take. So I decided at Kingman I'd just wait for a ride. That was hard for me because I normally would walk if I didn't have a ride right away, but at Kingman I just sat on the ramp and waited until I got a ride going all the way through. I forget, it may have been arranged through someone, because I believe I stopped in at a bar there, but I don't remember whether it was at the bar or on the ramp or where exactly. I met the ride that got me through the next stretch. And there's a difference between the deserts. The painted desert, northern Arizona, is hard-baked earth. It's mostly kind of red clay, red rock, red sand, and various other colored rocks and earth. But very painted looking, colorful, and hard-baked, but not the sandy kind of desert you normally think of in relationship to thinking of deserts. And at least there's some cactus and sagebrush and plant life and wildlife that seem to be able to exist there. The Mojave Desert's much more severe. There's almost nothing. I guess there's probably very little water there too. And the ride I got was going all the way to California. It was a young man about the same age as I was, in his 20s. He was driving a large car of some sort. I want to say it was an Impala, Chevrolet Impala. It's a big, wide, large car on the highway, and well, similar to these guys. You notice my new shirt, Route 66. But I think he was transporting the car from New Mexico or somewhere to California, and so he was driving all the way through. Perfect ride. And we got going down the road and going highway speeds and whatnot, and the car would drift off to one side, and he'd pull the steering wheel to get it back on the road, and then it'd drift off to the other side, and he'd pull the steering wheel back to get it back on the road. We weren't really running off the road, but and I forget whether the highway was several lanes wide at that point, I think. So I had a little bit of leeway, and it wasn't any traffic. There was no traffic, so it wasn't like it was a problem. But if you wanted to swerve, but going at, I don't know, 40, 50 miles an hour, and drifting back and forth across the highway was just not a very safe thing to be doing. At least it didn't feel safe to me. And we went on down the road several hours that way. I couldn't figure out what was wrong or why he would be doing it, unless maybe he was tired. And I think he did explain that there was some play in the steering wheel, but I still couldn't figure that out. I mean, you know, you get used to a steering being a certain way, and if you just make adjustments quickly enough, you would think you could keep it on the road without too much trouble, without going way over one way and way over the other way. So it still just didn't make sense to me why he was driving so badly. And I offered, I said, well, you look like you've been driving a long time and pretty tired. Why don't you let me drive? And I'll get us down the road a little way, another leg of the journey. And so he gladly let me have the car, and I hopped in and started her up and got on down the road a little ways. And I've never driven a car that was so bad, that the steering was so bad. And sure enough, wasn't anything you could really do about it. It'd just start drifting, and you could pull the steering wheel back, and it would get back more toward the center again, and then before you knew it, it'd start drifting the other way. It was terrible. The best I could do was no better than what he had been doing. In fact, he probably had practiced enough to have gotten a little better at it anyway, but I don't know how we got there without running off the road. But we at least got into California that way. And grateful to him for the ride, but it was a little scary. Don't remember much about the Mojave other than it was just a lot of sand, and there were some hills. I think maybe we crossed part of the Sierra Nevada there, so it's relatively steep elevations, but don't remember a whole lot other than just it was sand. A lot of gray, brown sand.